I am a 26-year-old female, and I grew up in foster care. I do know who my biological mother is and some of my biological family, but I have no contact with them unless it's forced. My biological mother let her dealer and boyfriends play with me for her drugs. I'm not over it, I am not going to get over it, and there is no amount of apologizing that will ever undo that. I was a literal child and was absolutely terrified of any men that spoke to me because I thought that was what they were going to do. As you can imagine, I've had to have a lot of therapy. I still don't do well with men, and I still have issues with intimacy. However, I am working on myself and my issues. I do have a daughter. She is 2 years old. She was an accidental pregnancy. I did not realize until it was too late that birth control and antibiotics for kidney infections don't mix well. By the time I found out, it was too late to abort. I do adore my daughter. She is a beautiful and brilliant little girl. We have a lot of fun together, and I'm trying to give her a good life that she will be happy with, but most importantly, will not need years of therapy to work through. Her father and I get along well and co-parent well. However, we are not together. He gets her every other weekend, and a few times during the week, he will come pick her up and go do something fun. He is fully aware of my background and is very specific about telling me where they are going and who she will be around. He is protective of her, so I am okay with him taking her places. I know he will keep her safe, and he keeps me informed so my anxiety isn't awful. Recently, my biological mother messaged me on Facebook and asked to see me. She wanted to meet my daughter and get to know her. She has supposedly gotten clean and is doing okay, according to her. I immediately cursed her out and told her there is no way in hell she will ever meet my child. She said what happened was a long time ago, and she has apologized many times. She doesn't understand why I won't just let it go since I turned out fine. For the record, I'm not fine, and just the thought of a man touching my daughter gives me panic attacks. I told her anything short of being tied to the stake and burned alive is getting off too easy and not to contact me again. Anyway, now I've calmed down a little, and a few people have told me I was being harsh. They agree she should never meet my daughter, but apparently I was far too emotional and should apologize. I'm still angry she had the audacity to even message me. However, I'm here asking if I was too harsh. Edit. This blew up way more than I thought it would. Thank you, everyone, for your kind words and making me feel like I'm doing something right. My daughter's father is aware of the situation. I FaceTimed him immediately after because it's his weekend with her, and I needed to see that she was okay. He also thinks we should get a protection order for our daughter and for myself as well. We will probably go on Monday. I do have the messages still, so hopefully we can easily get an order of protection, especially with my history. Again, thank you all. I appreciate it. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. So she apologized for being an absolute shoot mother and a horrible human. That's all good and fine, but it doesn't erase what she did. It doesn't take away all the shoot that you've been through. It doesn't take away the trauma that you will forever have to deal with. Honestly, you could have been harsher, and I still wouldn't think that you are wrong. And I'm sorry, but the fact that she said what she said when you said she can't meet your daughter shows that she clearly doesn't understand the depth of her actions, and that you and your daughter should never be around her again. Actions have consequences. Not the idiot. People saying you were being harsh probably haven't been victims of intimacy. Attack, let alone intimacy. Attack as a child. And it's easy to just say, oh, well, she's family, blah, blah, blah. Nonsense. Honestly, she's lucky she wasn't already blocked on Facebook. Personally, I wouldn't give her the time of day and would make sure she knows she's a terrible person every time I'd have to interact with her. Family is who you choose it to be, not just because you're blood related. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support on my last post. It's been a hectic few days, and I've got some updates that I think you'll want to hear. So, after the whole Facebook message fiasco with my biological mother, things took a turn I didn't expect. My daughter's father, let's call him Mark, has been my rock through all of this. He's been super supportive and protective, especially with our daughter. But this situation with my mom, it's like it opened up a can of worms we weren't ready for. Mark and I have always been on the same page when it comes to our daughter. We're not together, but we've managed to keep things friendly and focused on her well-being. He's been great about keeping me in the loop when he has her, which has helped my anxiety a lot. But after my mom reached out, he started acting a little off. He was more distant, and I could tell something was eating at him. I thought maybe he was just as upset about my mom as I was, but it was more than that. Turns out, Mark had been keeping a secret from me, one that hit me like a ton of bricks when it finally came out. A few days ago, Mark came over to drop off our daughter after his weekend with her. He looked like he hadn't slept, and I knew something was up. He asked if we could talk, and that's when he dropped the bombshell. He'd been seeing someone, which wasn't the issue. The issue was who he'd been seeing. My old high school friend, someone I'd confided in about my past, my fears, everything. I felt betrayed. Not because he was seeing someone, but because he chose her. It felt like a personal attack, like he was disregarding everything I'd been through. And the worst part, he wanted to introduce her to our daughter. I was livid. The thought of my daughter being around someone who knew my darkest secrets and didn't respect them was too much. We had a huge argument, right there in my living room. I told him he couldn't do this, that it was a line he couldn't cross. But he didn't see it that way. He said he was thinking about our daughter's future, about having a stable family unit. He said he loved this woman and that she was good with our daughter during the time she'd already met her, without my knowledge. I felt like my world was crumbling. Here I was, trying to protect my daughter from the kind of pain I went through, and the one person I trusted most was making me feel unsafe all over again. I couldn't believe he'd go behind my back like that. It was a heartbreak I wasn't prepared for, and it shook me to my core. The confrontation ended with Mark leaving and me in tears, holding our daughter close. I didn't know what to do next. I felt like I was back in that place of fear and distrust, the place I'd worked so hard to climb out of. But I had to pull myself together for my daughter. She needed me to be strong, to be her protector. So I did what I had to do. I called my therapist and set up an emergency session. I needed to sort through these feelings, to figure out how to handle this new betrayal without it affecting my daughter. My therapist reminded me of how far I'd come, of the strength I'd shown in the face of my past. She helped me see that while I couldn't control Mark's actions, I could control how I responded. I could set boundaries and make it clear what I was and wasn't comfortable with when it came to our daughter. So I did just that. I sat down with Mark a couple of days later, once I'd had time to calm down and think things through. I told him that while I couldn't stop him from seeing whoever he wanted, our daughter was a different story. I needed to meet this woman, to talk to her, to make sure she understood the gravity of the situation and the importance of protecting our little girl. Mark agreed reluctantly. He still didn't fully understand why I was so upset, but he respected my wishes. We're set to meet next week, and I'm going into it with a clear head and a firm resolve. My daughter's safety and well-being are my top priorities, and I'll do whatever it takes to ensure she's protected. As for my biological mother, I haven't heard from her since I told her off. I'm hoping it stays that way. I've got enough on my plate without her trying to weasel her way back into my life. I insulted my sister-in-law's eating habits, and she locked herself away. I said sorry, but the damage to her marriage and my sister's self-image was done. My sister-in-law, Beth, is plus-sized. Her terms, she doesn't really seem that overweight to me, and has been on a continual weight loss journey for as long as I've known her. The problem is that she is always now talking about what my sister and I eat, that we don't exercise, unfair metabolism, etc. Like, for example, we all had Christmas dinner together, and when we ate dessert, she kept saying that she couldn't have any, and it was unfair we could without worrying about the extra pounds. This is where I started to get mad, because I then noticed my sister, who is 17 and very small, put her dessert down and stopped eating it. So then this weekend, we were all at my mom's house, and Beth starts talking about food again. and then starts hyper-analyzing my little sister's body. I mean, taking her hand and putting it around my sister's arm and commenting that she could touch her fingers, saying, "Don't worry, soon you'll get a woman body and you'll have fat thighs too," etc. I kind of lost my shoot and asked to talk to her privately and, not very nicely, told her that she needs to stop projecting her issues with food onto the rest of us, and asked if she's trying to fast-track my little sister to an eating disorder. I said her issue wasn't her weight, it was her crazy toxic mindset. Then I said something which I totally acknowledged was over the line. Beth and my brother have been trying for kids for a year or so, and I said, "If you ever have a daughter, you're going to give her your crazy or something." Now, I did not mean this to be a barb that she will never have children, but that's how she took it. Anyway, after that, she started crying and went to hide in the bathroom, and my brother asked what happened, and I told him, and he called me a "see you next Tuesday." I went to the bathroom door and apologized for the comment about kids, but I stand by the rest. Eventually, my sister and I left to go get some stuff, and when we got back, bro and sister-in-law were gone. We also talked about my sister being okay with setting boundaries, and it doesn't make her mean to say something when Beth is acting like that. Then I received a long-winded text from her saying I need to apologize not just for the kid comment, but for all of it. And I said, no bueno. My mom and bro are both pressuring me to apologize. My mom just wants to keep the peace. But my sister said thank you and she appreciates it, and I don't want to apologize, except for the kid remark, which I already did. Am I the idiot? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Harsh? Maybe. Needed? Absolutely. I have a niece who is 7. She's already counting calories and obsessing about her appearance. This isn't a behavior my sister taught her. This is just stuff she's picking up from school. I will physically harm anyone who says anything about her appearance. Is your sister-in-law going to apologize to your sister for constantly nitpicking her appearance? No? Oh well, then I guess everything's fair game, isn't it? Not the idiot. Fight the fight for your sister. Comment 2. I can't believe apart from yourself, all these grown-ups have sat back and watched this woman continuously make snide remarks about a 17-year-old's appearance. She is obviously insanely jealous of the fact that yourself and your sister is slim. I am actually livid, people, and her are telling you to apologize. What the frick? She's a freaking bully. Do not apologize to this woman. She will see it as she has won and will carry on her hurtful behavior, not the idiot. Now for the update. Hey Reddit, it's been a hectic couple of weeks since my last post about my sister-in-law Beth and the whole Christmas dinner debacle. I'm back with an update, and let me tell you, it's been a roller coaster. After the whole blow-up, things cooled down for a bit. My brother and Beth didn't come around for a while, and my sister and I had some peace. But as you can guess, that didn't last long. My mom, being the peacemaker she is, decided to organize a family dinner to clear the air. I was hesitant, but I agreed for the sake of family unity. The night of the dinner, everyone was walking on eggshells. Beth had been quiet since the incident, and I could tell she was still hurt by what I said. Dinner was tense, but we got through the main course without any major issues. Then came dessert, and that's when things took a turn. Beth excused herself from the table and didn't come back for a while. My brother went to check on her, and we could hear them arguing from the other room. Turns out, Beth had been holding on to a lot of resentment from our last confrontation. She felt like I had attacked her personally and that my comments about her potential future kids were a low blow. My brother came back to the table alone, his face red with anger. He told us that Beth had locked herself in their room and was refusing to come out. He said that she felt like no one in the family respected her struggles with her weight, and that my comments had made her feel like an outsider. I felt terrible. I never meant to cause such a rift in the family. I tried to apologize again, but my brother wasn't having it. He said that I needed to make things right with Beth. Not just with a quick sorry, but by actually showing that I understood her pain. The next day, I went over to their house to talk to Beth. I brought her favorite flowers and a heartfelt letter, explaining that I never meant to hurt her and that I was sorry for not being more sensitive to her feelings. Beth read the letter, and to my surprise, she forgave me. We hugged it out, and it felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. But just when I thought things were getting better, another bomb dropped. My brother confessed that the stress from our fight had taken a toll on their marriage. They had been having problems for a while, and our argument was the last straw. They were considering taking a break to figure things out. I was shocked. I had no idea that my actions could have such a huge impact on their relationship. The guilt was overwhelming. I had always looked up to my brother and Beth as the perfect couple, and now I felt like I was partly to blame for their troubles. In the midst of all this, my little sister had been dealing with her own issues. She confided in me that Beth's comments about her body had really gotten to her. She had started skipping meals and was becoming obsessed with her weight. I was heartbroken. I had tried to protect her from Beth's toxic mindset, but it had backfired. We had a long talk, and I assured her that she was perfect just the way she was. I promised to support her in any way I could and to help her find a healthy relationship with food and her body. As for Beth, she's been going to therapy to work on her issues with food and self-esteem. She's making progress, but it's a slow journey. My brother and Beth are still together, but things are strained. They're trying to work through their problems, but it's clear that there's a long road ahead. My fiancé ditches our child-free pact at dinner and wants kids, but when I reveal my sterilization, he storms out. Now he's got a secret. I, 29-year-old female, have always been open about not wanting children with people from the first date. I don't want to waste my or their time. I met my fiancé, 32-year-old male, approximately 2.5 years ago online. We had a lot in common, including not wanting children. He proposed 4 months ago, and a few days ago, we were at his parents' house for dinner. His mother commented about his sister, who is pregnant, which led to a discussion about us having children. When children come up, I usually just change the subject as soon as possible. But before I could find an opportunity, my fiancé answered that we wouldn't start trying until after the wedding and after we have a house, so we wouldn't have to worry about moving while I was pregnant. I was surprised, but figured maybe he hadn't discussed not wanting children with his family, and he just didn't want to talk about it. After we were driving home, I made a comment suggesting that we should inform his family now that we aren't having children in order to avoid talking about it in the future. Then he told me that he wasn't sure about being child-free. I was shocked and didn't know how to respond, except to tell him that I was sure, and ask when he started thinking he might want children. He told me that he was never sure and that now he thought he wanted them. I was really hurt because he lied to me. When we started dating, I was very clear that I didn't want children under any circumstances, and if he wasn't sure, it wouldn't work. We argued, and he basically told me that he thought I might change my mind. What he didn't know is that I was sterilized at 25. When I was 22, despite using birth control, I got pregnant and had a baby unaliving. After that experience, the stress of that possibly happening again was too much, and it began to take a toll on my mental and physical health. To make a long story short, after 2 years of searching for a doctor, I was able to find one willing to sterilize an unmarried, childless woman in her early 20s. My mental health improved overnight as soon as I had a date scheduled, and I no longer have as much anxiety. This was 1.5 years before I met my fiancé. I never mentioned it because it doesn't matter since I don't want children. I told him that I can't have children because I was sterilized, and then he got mad at me for not telling him, saying that he might not have dated me if he knew. He called me a jerk and dropped me off at home and went to stay with a friend. At this point, I'm not hopeful for the relationship. I am sad about it because I do love him, but I was clear about my stance on children from the start, as it is a deal breaker. What I want to know is if I am the jerk for not telling him that I can't have children. I have received messages from his friends saying that I am. Not that I worry about their biased opinions, but a couple of my friends have said that I should have told him, while others are on my side, saying that it doesn't matter because I don't want children. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. You were very clear you didn't want children, that you are sterilized is irrelevant. If you changed your mind, you could still adopt. But you aren't interested in changing your mind, so it doesn't matter if you're sterilized or not. It's a no-child zone. He's the jerk in this, for telling you something and not meaning it. For planning a marriage based on a deception. For not even once thinking he needed to discuss this again. For not believing you when you told him all along that you didn't want children, and for having the nerve to think you're in the wrong on this, for believing him all this time. I'm so sorry your relationship is ending after you've invested so much in it. Sadly, it does show that he really didn't respect you. Better to find that out now than after you've bound yourself to him legally. Comment 2. What I am hearing is he is mad he won't be able to convince you to have children now. He heard you say you never want kids, but figured that was the start to a negotiation. You have zero to be guilty about. You told him, I don't want to have my own kids. Why would you need to go into detail as to how that can't happen? It doesn't matter. You should pack his stuff and tell him it's ready for pickup. Any person that wants to try and guilt trip you or try to gaslight you isn't worth wasting any more time on. Mourn through loss of that relationship and find someone that will accept your truth. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support on my last post. It's been a busy couple of weeks and I've got a lot to update you on. So after the news my fiancé dropped about wanting kids, things went from bad to worse. I thought the heartbreak couldn't get any deeper, but boy, was I wrong. Remember how I told you about my sterilization? Well, turns out he couldn't let it go. He came back after a few days and we had a long, intense talk. He admitted he'd been holding on to hope that I'd change my mind about kids, and my being sterilized shattered that hope. It was a gut punch, realizing the man I loved had been banking on me to flip on something so fundamental to who I am. The confrontation was raw, and the air was thick with betrayal. He said he felt deceived, that I should have disclosed my sterilization early on. I reminded him that my stance on not wanting kids was clear from the get-go, and the sterilization was a personal medical decision that didn't need to be shared since it aligned with my life choices. But here's the new development that left me reeling. A week after our big fight, I found out from a mutual friend that my fiancé had been confiding in his ex about our issues. Yeah, the ex he always told me was just a good friend. They'd been talking a lot more than he let on, and she was pregnant. It wasn't his, but the fact that he was supporting her through her pregnancy while questioning our child-free future, it felt like a slap in the face. I confronted him about it, and the look on his face said it all. He'd been seeking comfort in someone who wanted the life he thought he wanted too. The heartbreak was unbearable. I thought we were a team, but he'd been playing on a different field altogether. Now let's rewind a bit to give you some context. My fiancé and his ex had a complicated history. They'd been on and off for years before he met me. When we started dating, he assured me they were just friends and that their romantic past was well past. I trusted him, and I never saw any red flags until now. The trust between us was shattered. I felt like I didn't even know who he was anymore. The man I was planning to marry was a stranger, hiding his true feelings and turning to his ex for support. And if that wasn't enough, his family got involved. His mom called me, crying, asking why I was breaking her son's heart. She didn't know the full story, of course. She thought I was the one who had changed my mind about kids, not the other way around. I tried to explain, but she was hearing none of it. It was clear where his family stood, and it wasn't with me. The fallout was messy. Our friends were split, some siding with him, others with me. The ones who knew about my sterilization were more understanding, but others felt like I'd kept a huge secret. It didn't matter that I'd been upfront about not wanting kids. To them, the sterilization was a game changer. As for the wedding, well, that's off the table now. We've called it quits, and I've been trying to pick up the pieces of my life. It's hard, moving on from someone you thought you'd spend the rest of your life with. But I guess it's better to find out now than after saying I do. The apartment we shared feels empty without him, but I'm slowly making it my own again. I've been spending time with friends who support me, and I'm focusing on my career and hobbies. It's not easy, but I'm getting there, one day at a time. So, am I the jerk for not disclosing my sterilization? I've been wrestling with that question, but deep down, I know I was honest about my intentions from the start. It's just a shame he wasn't honest about his. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.